Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
It's documentary at night on the Reeve, with the intent of expanding your mind and just sitting down and getting educated with me. Documentaries should be called educational mentories. I think that's a more marketable name. Super/Man. The Christopher Reeve story, 2024. It's Peter A. DeLuca, aka Padders, the AKAPAD Army, all of you out there. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging out. We're all gas now, and I am inching towards the big announcement across all my platforms, and I'll tease it. It's going to be the official schedule of everything you guys see me do, everything you guys participate in. Hopefully and potentially finally the launch of the newsletter, so you guys can sign up and just it helps you track everything, because we do a lot. We do comic books. We're making our own products. We're making products off of the podcast itself. We're talking PDFs. We're talking printed books. So there's just a lot happening, and it's exciting, and it just fires me up. And I'm framing this documentary with that. You watch this documentary, and I have to say, I only put it on because it's Superman Fantastic Four month. And I just said to myself, I just put it on. Because I don't like stories or documentaries or parts of stories that just deal with absolute tragedy, when it comes to individuals. Christopher Reeve, I'm infinitely fascinated by him. And it took me some time to get there. But one of the reasons why I'm fascinated with Christopher Reeve is when I see what he's done outside of the role of Superman. Where, I mean, and I guess, like, maybe, just stick with me, guys. I think I'm going to be all over the place. His father, I love this part in the documentary. His father didn't want him to take the role. His father looked down on the role. Which is absolutely right. Like, it's so thrilling to hear that, because it was unserious. It was Christopher Reeve came from a serious background. The father wanted more for the son. To a large extent, the father was right. Superman, as Christopher Reeve was able to stick with the character for 1, 2, 3, and 4. But you're supposed to have a career, and you're supposed to be able to build a family and provide and do all of this stuff. But you get typecast. So there were parts of this documentary, walking into it, where I don't want to see the tragedy of him having the horse accident. And I know he's Superman, and I'm aware of some of his other movies. So what is this thing going to teach me? But that fact alone, to me, structures the way I look at Christopher Reeve so much. And then watching this, there's this other element that came to mind. And throughout this process, aka Padders, we learned how much of a horse rider Christopher Reeve was, how somewhat obsessive he was about it, and how skilled he was. So some of the footage and the conversations with Reeve, they skip through time. Some of it is him confined to a wheelchair, talking in that slow voice that we know him as. But he, again, though, was in the spotlight for quite some time post accident. So it's not like he was dicking around. He was doing something that he was beyond familiar with. Very similarly, like if we learn about the life of Sylvester Stallone, he had this insane polo accident that damaged his back, his spine. He even played against his father one year, and his father like took him off the horse because his father kind of played dirty. But the big thought that emerged is that there's this unintended consequence of this casting, and as much as people want to say it was a great thing, well, people looked at, but this bigger reality emerges with his casting as Superman, because people looked at it as perfect, and people knew it was perfect, and people again wrote and spoke about it, and it got repeated. Christopher Reeve, perfect casting for Superman. It became legendary. It's one of maybe the most perfect casting in Hollywood history. So every single comic book adaptation would get compared to this casting, including, at this point, the next biggest comic book movie and the biggest comic book movie at the time, Michael Keaton, Batman. It stems from the way people perceive how comic book casting should be. It is prevalent to this day. We just recently got a Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards for Fantastic Four, and as many of times that I've read, seen, watched, said to myself that he is a good Reed Richards, we get these people that he's not really Reed Richards, including myself. But he's there on screen and it works, but is the casting perfect? So there's like two things. There's what happens like after the casting and before. And some casting nowadays, it's run by analytics, which is perfectly fine in my opinion. But in my opinion, so that's the one that matters. But we would get Hugh Jackman. People are like, "Oh, he's perfect as Wolverine," but not as he was cast. Patrick Stewart, people said, perfect as Professor Xavier, but then again, Xavier doesn't run those movies. Wolverine does. So we get this to this day, that comic book casting needs to be absolutely perfect, and we saw it with Superman. They even retcon. They say George Reeves was perfectly cast. So all this stuff. So, but that's not the point of this documentary. That is my takeaway, and that is my observation. Now, let's talk about 1978. Christopher Reeve drops two movies. Gray Lady Down. He's in that. But then it's Superman. Within the next 2 years. So the years of the Superman movie drops, he surrounds with non-typical roles. He tries to break out of his typecasting. He does a movie called Somewhere in Time, which is a great movie. He does a movie called Death Trap, 1982, right after the sequel, Superman 2, comes out. 2 years after. He does two movies that year. Again, trying to break away. Superman 3 drops. The next year, he does a movie called The Bostonians. Then he makes one great movie, 1985, The Aviator. The Forgotten, 1987. He comes out with two movies, and they are as opposite as you can imagine. Street Smart, Superman Quest for Peace. And he's involved, right? He is the writer for that movie. He wrote the story. So he gets involved with the production of Superman 4. 1988, he's in a movie called Switching Channels, which is there's network news and network. It's broadcast news and network. James L. Brooks, right, and Sidney Lumet. So there's a little bit of a trend within Hollywood of doing these, TV station driven comedy dramas, dramedies, romantic dramedies. He's in 1992. Incredible in Noises Off. I used to watch that on HBO all the time. So I mean, we see a career here. Is he ever not Superman in any of these roles? And you will say no. But the public wants to pretend that he never got involved. So we like in this documentary, we see and hear some of that plight. We see that he is first and foremost an actor. He's a huge stage actor. He gave as much time on stage as he did on screen as he did on television. His stage work is prevalent from 1968 all the way to 1994. Before we know him in Superman, 1, 2, 3, 4 roles 1968, another 4 roles in 1969, another 5 roles 1970, 1971, 1972, 73, 74, 75, 70. There is not one year that he's not represented on stage. Post Superman, he's in multiple plays. He's more of a stage actor. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine someone reaching a iconic role? Like, let's just say the new Batman. You get cast as a Dark Knight. The movie's the biggest thing ever. And you prefer to do stage over continuing to do movies. That's who Christopher Reeve was. And he changed his own life through one of his loves and one of his hobbies. And I think we can all strive to do that. I think there's a big lesson there. Die what you love doing. And it nearly happened with him. His public life post accident is worthy. That's worthy of a movie itself. So this documentary just helped form a couple different ideas, positions, and views I have of Christopher Reeve and his career and his home life. And like I said, that stuff with his father just blew me away. And like maybe his father was right. Maybe Superman wasn't quite right for him. You kind of want to say Reeve was talented enough to be a leading man for his entire lifetime when it comes to Hollywood. He could have been the next Paul Newman. I'm sure that's what a little bit of. I think that had been repeated. Like, he could have been the next Paul Newman. I think he did have the chops. All right, AKAPADers, another great documentary. I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.